there's the light, and it beams for everybody. It beams in the dark area, it beams in the light area.
Mm-hmm.
We all need the light to help us with the war against ourselves. Do you not see the opposite of frailty and weakness is sinlessness? Innocence is strength, and nothing else is strong. The sinless cannot fear, for sin of any kind is weakness. The show of strength attack would use, the show of strength attack would use to cover frailty conceals sin and weakness not. For how can the unreal be hidden? No one is strong who has an enemy, and no one can attack unless he thinks he has an enemy. Belief in enemies is therefore the belief in weakness. Ooh, that's a pretty strong statement right there. And what is weak is not the will of God. Being opposed to the will of God, sin and weakness is God's enemy. And God is feared as an opposing will of those who believe they are sinful and weak. There's no way to come at that statement without understanding the truth of it. And this particular paragraph is a good example of saying it 6 different ways.
Yeah.
And sometimes the 6 different ways are maybe a little bit overbearing to the average reader at first, but he sure wants to make sure that we get the message that if we think we have enemies, then we have a problem.
The belief in sin, guilt, and fear form the basis for the egoic thought system. This unholy trinity is the ego's proof that the separation is real, that we can oppose God's will. There is nothing that can oppose a oneness of everything, for there is nothing outside of it. What is there to fear? What could attack it or be attacked by it?
How strange indeed becomes this war against yourself. You will believe that everything you use for sin can hurt you, become your enemy. And you will fight against everything you use for sin and try to weaken everything you use for sin because of this belief that you have enemies. And you will think that you succeeded by fighting against your enemies and will attack again. It is as certain you will fear what you attack as it is sure that you will love what you perceive as sinless. He walks in peace who travels sinlessly along the way love shows him. For love walks with him there, protecting him from fear. And he who walks in love, peace, and sinlessness will see only the sinless who cannot attack.
By following the thought system of the Holy Spirit, you'll follow the path of love and forgiveness. Refusing to see error as sin, you will offer correction for any mistake that would witness for any limitation of God's Son. Seeing everything as part of the sinless oneness, you know that you are that one self.
Walk you in glory with your head held high and fear no evil. The innocent are safe because the innocent share their innocence. Nothing the innocent see is nothing the innocents see is harmful, for their awareness of the truth releases everything from the illusion of harmfulness. And what seemed harmful now stands shining in their innocence, released from sin and fear, and happily return to love. The innocent share the strength of love because they looked on innocence. And every error disappeared because the innocent saw the illusion of sin not. Who looks for glory finds glory where it is. Where can glory be but in the innocent?
The innocent are unaware of that which does not exist. That's pretty powerful. The innocent aren't aware of things that aren't are. That's profound to me. If they're innocent, they only see what actually is, not all the fearful things that don't exist. God, like our higher self, doesn't know what does not exist, which is the false. Thus, the innocent are they who know not of sin. Being innocent, they have no concept of sin because it's not part of their thought system. For ACIM purposes, the only perception that the innocent would have is the observation that any part of the indivisible oneness is perfect. Every part of the oneness has to be perfect, whole, and complete. The barriers to a love, which are fear, sin, and guilt, are unknown to the innocent. They are conduits for God's will.
Let not the little interferers pull you to littleness. There can be no attraction of guilt in innocence. Think what a happy world you walk with truth beside you. Do not give up this world of freedom and truth for a little sigh of seeming sin, nor for a tiny stirring of guilt's attraction. Would you, for all these meaningless distractions, lay heaven aside? Your destiny and purpose are far beyond the attraction of sin and guilt's littleness. Your destiny and purpose are in the clean place where littleness does not exist. Your purpose is at variance with littleness of any kind, and so your purpose is at variance with sin.
That's right. Our beliefs and limitations frequently are the things that hold us back more so than any outside force. Littleness is the idea that God and his creation could be limited in some way, and that the separation was real. Our egoic belief in sin birthed littleness. Specialness is the belief in inequality. Already being created as a holographic part of the oneness of everything, when we wanted to be special and different from the oneness, the only playing field available was in the imagination of a deluded mind. In the non real world of perception, time, and space, the game of egoic littleness is played out. In the world of time and space, our function is forgiveness, our purpose, love, and our destiny, the peace of God.
Let us not let littleness lead God's Son into temptation. The Son of God's glory is beyond temptation's littleness. The Son of God's glory is measureless and timeless as eternity. Do not let time intrude upon your sight of him, God's Son. Leave him not frightened and alone in his temptation, but help him rise above the temptation of littleness and perceive the light of which he is a part. Your innocence will light the way to his innocence, and so is your innocence protected and kept in your awareness. For who can know his higher self's glory and perceive the little and the weak about him? Who can walk trembling in a fearful world and realize that heaven's glory shines in him who perceives himself as little?
By acceptance of the at-one-ment, the healing of God for yourself, you accept your sinless and guiltless nature. It's a purification. There is no sin, there is no guilt. It's a purification in that you realize and recognize the perspective that you thought you made a mistake, but you were wrong.
Mhm.
You recognize the truth of the oneness. You realize that to give is only giving from one hand to the other. To give is literally to receive. Since we are all one, to give is the same as receiving. In your granting forgiveness and sinlessness to your brother, you confirm the reality that we're all one, that we're all part of the same, one shared mind of God that is the one self.
Nothing around you but is part of you. You're part of everything. Look on everything around you lovingly and see the light of heaven in everything. So you come to understand all that is given you is everything. In kind forgiveness will the world sparkle and shine. And everything you once thought sinful now will be reinterpreted as part of heaven. How beautiful it is to walk clean and redeemed and happy through a world in bitter need of the redemption that your innocence bestows upon the world in which you walk. What can you value more than the redemption of the world in which you walk? For here, in the world in which you walk, is your salvation and your freedom. And your salvation and your freedom must be complete if you would recognize it in the world you walk.
The world you walk in is the world of perception. That's what we see with our eyes. This is your own provisional reality. Provisional because it's your perspective, your provisioned part of reality. It's your perspective. It's how you view your world. Is your universe a loving, forgiving, and supportive place? Or is your world a competitive, fearful place of limitation, pain, and suffering? We, as decision makers, always control how we will perceive our world. We, as decision makers, always control how we will perceive our world. Will we choose to look upon our world through the loving vision of Christ? Or will we choose to look with our egoic eyes that focus only on sin, guilt, and fear? The choice is always our choice alone and no one else's choice. We are not victims of the world we perceive. Instead, our perception makes or creates the world we perceive. And that, my friends, is really the truth.